One to Another podcast. My name is Joanne, and today we're going to talk about the subject of ritual. Now, ritual is a lot of what I've learned in the recent months about loss, about letting go, and about healing. So if you've been listening to this podcast at all, you know that I have put a lot of time and energy into healing, and a lot of it has happened through ritual. If you haven't been tuning in lately, you need to know that my husband died early in March. We'd been married for 27 years, and he had been in hospice for almost 2 years. He had gone through a very slow decline. He'd had 3 mini strokes, and slowly they just started inching into his life and taking away the different parts of him physically that he could no longer do. And finally, at the end, he was in his hospital bed for 7 to 8 days without speaking, without eating or drinking, and his life just ebbed away. Life ebbs away for us. When someone we love dies, our heart starts to ache. It's been aching before, especially if they've been in hospice or we've had a prognosis of any sort that has said termination will be sometime. And we begin to look at our anticipatory grief. And it's amazing how in our lives we're so used to a certain routine that when it starts to change, it gives us signals that life is changing. And how are you going to work through it? Well, in the years before Ron died, we had a lot of time to talk about changes, and we talked about his changes and how I could help him each time he went through a major change. But I do remember that one night we were sitting in the TV room, and I was sitting next to him, and I started saying, Ron, when you die, what do you want me to do? And so we started talking about how he wanted to be buried, what he wanted to be buried in, and what kind of a funeral he wanted. Now, a lot of people have trouble talking about those things when someone's alive, but I didn't have any problem. I just really wanted to know, and he told me without any certain terms, he wanted to be buried in a casket. Now, I tried every way I could to try to talk him out of that, but that's what he said he wanted, and he wanted a nice one. And he told me that he wanted a funeral. And then he began to talk to me about what he wanted in his funeral. And I listened very carefully as he started talking to me. And I remember that night, after we finished our time and I had gone to bed, I started writing down the things that he said because I wanted to remember them. He wanted to have a particular song sung. He wanted to have the military there. He wanted bagpipes. And he wanted a tribute from the different areas of his life. And so I just put that all on paper and put it in the back of my mind. And so, as I just shared with you, he didn't talk or eat the last 7 or 8 days of his life. But I did have an experience during that time with him. It was one night when we always had a time where we prayed together, had scriptures that we read. And I sat down in a chair next to him in his bed. And I said, Ron, we're going to have our prayer time. And I took his hand. And as I took his hand, he really did squeeze my hand. And I felt like he was telling me, yes, I can hear you. I can't talk, but I'm with you. And every time I would say a particular sentence, he would really squeeze my hand. When I finished the whole time and prayed the prayer that we prayed together, he just kept squeezing my hand, telling me I believe that, yes, he was with me. And I'll never forget those squeezes. They were important to help me know that he was listening and he was still there. So then he takes his last breath, and here we are in a new phase. And one thing about grief is it changes. As we go through the anticipatory grief, we know that things are changing, and then they do change. And that's when that great big hole in your heart is so deep and it aches and it hurts, and you don't think it's going to stop ever hurting. But you know that you have things to do and responsibilities. And so as the tears flow, you still know that there's work to do. And so I just remembered that as I did put the funeral together and spent hours putting it together to make it a special tribute to him, that it really was everything that he wanted. And the people that came, and many people came, and I so appreciated those that came, their support. So then, there's a burial, and then there's those steps that you begin to take again in your life to figure out how in the world do you lose, when you lose one, how do you live minus one? I begin to do a lot of rituals, and I've shared some of the rituals before, but I haven't shared this one because this is a recent one that I've done. And I really wanted to share it with you because I think that sometimes we think that they aren't important. But I know this: the power of ritual is enormous. It can alter a state of mind, invoke a change of consciousness, solve a problem, heal pain, bring closure, and bring something buried deep in the unconscious into the open. In ritual, the physical act of doing something symbolic engages or senses our muscles, our nerve fibers, sending a lot of different messages to our brain, our thought channels, to activate change and transformation. There are traditional rituals, secular and religious rituals surrounding holidays, weddings, funerals. These usually consist of a set of formal, symbolic acts that are performed in a certain way and in a certain order. Individually created rituals give expression to our personal feelings of loss, anger, joy, passion, loneliness, hope, comfort, and most of all, love. 5 key elements in ritual. The intention. Why am I doing this ritual? Sequence. A clear beginning and some kind of an end to what you are doing a goodbye. Sacred space can be a table, a cloth, a candle, flowers, food, religious objects, or whatever one chooses. Ingredients: words, actions, music, poetry, prayer, scents, food, special objects. Personal meaning: choose objects that have meaning to you, that you feel drawn to. Ritual comes from one's own heart and experience. And so, why do we have rituals? We have rituals because we want to honor the person that we've loved, and we need to say goodbye to that relationship because they're no longer with us, and we need to let go of that part of the relationship. We never say goodbye to the memories. Memories that we keep forever in our heart. I think we tell courageous stories not to deny potential dangers, but they empower us to handle them better. Rather than saying it's daunting, call it stretching. Rather than saying it's a failure, say it's a valuable lesson. Rather than saying you're too young, too old, too late, you're exactly on time when you're ready to do one. Rather than saying you don't know what you're doing, declare that you're excited to learn and figure it out as you go. I believe that telling stories in your ritual is you're making peace with your unfinished self. And so, as I decided one after another, slowly, I began to do my many rituals. I began to see so much healing happening in my heart, but I knew that there was a big one coming, and I needed to work on it, and I needed to do it. And I have found that saying goodbye to hurry to heal is not going to work. We need to say hello to the freedom to heal well. And so if you're in a hurry to do it, slow down, because it takes a lot of work, creativity, time, and energy to do it. So when we say goodbye, we certainly want to heal well after we have done our ritual. So saying goodbye, first of all, I want you to know that every beginning is a consequence. Every beginning ends something. And that's true. Also, no one changes unless they want to. Not if you beg them, not if you shame them, not if you use reason, emotion, or tough love. There's only one thing that makes someone change. That's their own realization that they need to do it. And you can only do a ritual when you know that you're ready and you need to do it. Because I've learned that every exit is an entry into somewhere else. And no one doesn't discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time. Example is not the main thing in influencing others. It's the only thing. And so what I wanted to do was to share with you my example of letting go. And I realized it was time for me to take off the wedding rings that Ron had given me when we got married. And I thought a lot about it. And I thought, yep, I know it's time. I do know it's time for me to let go. And so I just wrote down some things about what I needed to say goodbye to when I would take off the wedding rings. I wanted to say goodbye to morning hugs, kisses, and special moments of encouraging each other. I remember through the pandemic, I was working from home, and every morning Ron would get up, shave, put on his best clothes, his best casual clothes, and every morning when he'd come out, I'd say, "Oh, you look so nice in your flannel shirt and your jeans today. I just want you to know you're sure good looking." And I can tell you that we would talk to each other in those ways about what we wore. And he would say to me, "You sure look nice today. I know you're going to be a great chaplain today. People are going to love seeing you walk in the door." It was the idea that we always encouraged each other. And then saying goodbye to the passion that we had in our marriage. When I was thinking about the passion that we had in our marriage, we had gone on many, many cruises. And one of the cruises that we went on, and we only happened to go on this cruise ship once, and it was a sailboat, and it was on Windstar Cruises. And I think maybe there was 100 people on the ship, maybe 125, I can't remember. And I think there was about 100 people there to be support to us. But it was a beautiful sailboat. And I remember that we had an absolutely wonderful room. And when the wind would come up, the hydraulic sails would come up. And it was so fun to watch them move to the top and sail then with the sails up. But it was a very wonderful and passionate cruise. And so when I was thinking about saying goodbye to that part, I had a picture of the ship, and I just looked at it, and I just smiled because I just remember so many things of that cruise. And then I need to say goodbye to the deep feeling of security of wearing his gift of the wedding ring till death has parted us. And I remember in the service when he put him on and he said, "I love you for better, for worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, till death do us part." And as I thought about looking at the rings and how much I had loved wearing them and belonging and feeling significantly connected to another person. And so as I was slowly taking them off, I kept thinking about that security I've had. And then the other thing I was thinking about that was important to me to say goodbye to as I'm taking off the rings was saying goodbye to reading good books together. I would bring one book on a cruise, and what we would do is we'd have a reading time during our time together on the cruise where we bring our book, and Ron was a great reader, and I'm a good reader too. But it would be fun that we'd just take chapters and he would read a chapter and then we'd talk about it. And then maybe we wouldn't do any more that day, but the next day it was my turn to read. And we read some wonderful books on cruises, but we also read books at home. If he read a really good book, he'd say to me, this book is so great, I'd like to read it to you. I'd say, okay. And then when we go on trips in our car, maybe we were on the way to the beach, or we were going up to Skamania Lodge, or we were going someplace, then I'd bring a book and I'd read to him. So as I'm saying goodbye to my relationship with Ron and taking off my rings, one of the things that was so part of our lives together was reading. And then I needed to say goodbye to the beautiful home we created for love and happiness, for long walks around our neighborhood. We love to hold hands and walk around our neighborhood and pray for our neighbors. And if we'd see some of them out, which wasn't too often, we'd chat with them. But, this home was our home. When I married him, I moved to his farm. But when we sold the farm, then we bought a house together. That was our house. And I knew that part of the wedding rings was what we had created together. And I think that most of all, that I realized how deeply our lives were together with passion, with great, great encouragement, and with great, great admiration. And so as I said goodbye to these, I picked a few pictures out to look at. And the first picture I picked out was on the cruise. We got married on a cruise before it left port in Vancouver, BC. And I kept the picture of all of the people who came to our wedding. There was 30. And I still have this picture. And I brought it out. And I was just reminiscing about all the people that were on the cruise. And then I just picked out 2 or 3 pictures of our wedding on the cruise. And I looked at them again. And I just saw how much fun we had on our wedding day, and just remembering the joy of cementing our lives together with a kiss. And so as I looked at the pictures, it was bringing great, great joy, but also a lot of pain to realizing this relationship is over, and I am saying goodbye by taking off my wedding rings. And so all the things that I've just shared with you, I put on a 3x5 card. Each one I put on a 3x5 card. And as I began to realize what I was doing, after I had said all of my goodbyes, I took the cards and I tore them up one at a time. In my ritual of letting go, I tore them up to hear and feel and experience the change that is happening in my life. And it was not easy. I can tell you that when I finished the ritual, that there was a ton of tears. Because, grief is the price we pay for the ability to love. And when we love deeply, we hurt deeply. And we know that when we do this with love and with honesty, that we truly are letting go. And I decided that after I had taken them off and put them in a special place, I decided that I wanted to go see a particular jeweler. And I wanted to take the wedding rings and I wanted to take them with the idea that I could find a jeweler that knew how to create something special. And so I went to a jeweler with a friend and we drew a picture of a heart because I wanted it to be a heart-shaped necklace. And there was a lot of diamonds in the wedding rings. And Ron had also given me another ring that I can't remember if there were sapphires in it, but they were bright red. Anyway, we took all this to the jeweler, kind of made a sketch, and said what we were looking for. And he was listening to us talk, and as he was talking, he was sketching and thinking about what he wanted to do. And then, he came up with a beautiful sketch and said, I think this is what you want. And it's beautiful. And so he took our ideas and his, and he is now processing and making this necklace. And I don't have it yet, but I will sometime soon. It'll be finished. And I can then wear that. And I can wear that as a necklace. When I put it on, it's going to be close to my heart. And love will always be in my heart for Ron. But when I have something that I can wear that reminds me again and again that yes, I have let go, I've said goodbye to our marriage. But you know what? I have this beautiful necklace to remind me of all that we have had together. And I think that the scripture that's helped me get through this was in Ezra 7:28. It says, because the hand of the Lord was upon me, I took courage. It took a lot of courage to do this. And I do believe that there's sometimes when we do have rituals that we do, that we need to let go of things that maybe aren't so pleasant. But I've learned how important it is to have ritual to let go of pain, whether you have a lot of special memories, maybe only one or two, whatever it is, ritual helps you release pain and it helps you grow. And it helps you grow and learn that one is a whole number. Now, if you're still married and it's someone in your family that you're letting go of, you just have to remember that grief is the price you pay for the ability to love. And as you love and let go, there's something special, a peace that passes all understanding that comes and it comes into your heart. And as you let go, there is release, there's healing, there's renewal, and there's hope. And so if you have a place that you are wanting to let go, but it's not so pleasant, you can remember a scripture that's in Isaiah 26:14. This is from the Amplified Bible. It says they, and then I put who the former masters are. It says, they, the former tyrant masters, are dead. They shall not live and reappear. They are powerless ghosts. They shall not rise and come back. Therefore, my friend, you have visited and made a ritual and made an end of them and caused every memory of them, every trace of their supremacy to perish. Whatever it is, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, there's that time that you need to understand that ritual is part of the healing to help you let go. Whether it's anger, disappointment, anything, fear, anything that's got you into being stuck in a place where you think you can't move on, you can if you'll just do some sort of a ritual to help you say goodbye so that you can say hello. So I hope that somehow my sharing my story is something that might help you begin step by step. In this process that I've been going through, I've been letting go of a lot, and I've only done it step by step. One step, I do a ritual, I wait, and then maybe I do another step. I let myself heal from it, and then I do another. And I have found that if we don't jump a step, but we do it just as He is directing, healing comes, renewal comes, a new hello will come into your life. I'm hoping that as we've been together today, that maybe you'll just take one more step, or maybe take the first step in your healing.